Everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. On this episode, delighted to be talking with comics creator Gary Shipman. Gary, thank you for jumping in and joining.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
A pleasure, absolutely a pleasure. I know that folks out there will know you for your work in Pakkins land, including Titan, Mouse of Might, which is lots of fun to say, I have to say.
Yeah, mouthful.
Yeah, yeah. Well, by means of an initial origins kind of question, I am curious about what led you to storytelling and particularly storytelling in comics.
Oh, let's see. Well, I guess I've always liked when I was real young, I've always liked animation, Saturday morning cartoons. Uh, when I became like more in my teens, early teens, I found out about comic books. I didn't fully understand them. I just thought you go to the 7-Eleven or Quick Stop or something like that, and there's these books that are randomly there and they change at different times. I didn't understand that there was a schedule. Um, and it's like, how do you know? How do you get the story from one thing to the next? I didn't understand that. As I got older, obviously, I figured all that out. But the comic book format really fascinated me once I came across the work of John Byrne,
Mhm.
his visuals, and Chris Claremont's writing in X-Men. I would have to say that was the most pivotal thing for me at that time, at that young age. Um, that it just fascinated me. I was like, oh, this is what I want to do. This is so amazing how this man is able to draw these pictures and tell these stories just visually. And I would just look at them. I don't even know that I read them much. I just would look at the artwork and I understood what was going on for the most part.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so that was my initial, uh, you know, step into the world of, sequential art.
Mhm.
And then from there, I found like Frank Miller, and his work really just blew me away with Daredevil, and then Dark Knight Returns, and Year One, Batman Year One, things like that. Um, and it, and I just fell in love with the idea of telling a story using images.
Mhm.
Um, and I always thought that you have to add words. Otherwise people are going to be upset if you're doing comic books and you don't have words in there. That's going to upset people. And I just wanted to do the images. I just
Yeah.
wanted to draw a story and have the pictures tell the story, like almost like a silent film or something. And I have done a few issues that way where it's just no words, just all images. But I always felt like I was ripping people off or something. But as I've gotten older, I've learned people actually do enjoy that. Not that
Mhm.
exclusively, but so I hope that answered the question. I'm not sure.
It totally does, absolutely. Well, love the sort of fantasy orientation that you bring, and of course, I'm very familiar with superhero comics being a dominant form, but I love what you do in your stories as far as uh, kind of a fantasy creative exploration as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think that the reason why I went that direction, like with Packins Land, Titan Mouse and Might is more of a he has a superhero vibe to him. He has a
Hmm.
costume and all that kind of stuff. But 25, 30 years ago, when I started doing Packins Land, it I was thinking, I wanted to go away from comic books. I left the comic book industry. I was really trying to pursue comic books in the mainstream, like with Marvel and DC and things like that. Image had just come out, like the first issue
Hmm.
of something, either Spawn or something, had come out, and I at that point I was like, I'm out, I'm done. Comic books are trash, is what I thought. And like nothing good is coming out anymore. Frank Miller, he did what he did. Alan Moore did Watchmen and things like that, and it's just over. And it just seemed like just a lot of stuff that didn't interest me at all.
Hmm.
And the artwork was nice, I guess, with the newer people that were coming, but they didn't tell a story with it for me anyways. Maybe they do, and I'm not trying to discredit them, but in my mind, when I looked at it, all I saw was pretty pictures, and
Mhm.
which are great if you're looking for pretty pictures. But I wanted it to see a story. I wanted to have the emotional ride that sequential, art takes you on, or can take you on if someone knows how to do it. And then now that's what I've wanted to do. I've tried over the last 30 years or so trying to master it, or even not master it, but get good enough at it to where I could tell a story and
Mhm.
that it could affect somebody who's reading it. And I think that that's a high privilege if somebody actually would read what I've done and actually come away with it thinking, wow, there's something to this. Um, that's what I love. I love that.
Yeah, yeah, I love that as well. And curious to hear about your creative process. How do you sort of come around with ideas and then bring those from idea to the page?
Well, a lot of the ideas that I have, I think that it's just uh, kind of a Frankenstein of everything that I've seen.
Hmm.
Like when I was a kid, I watched all the Disney animated stuff, the Saturday morning cartoons. Then like there were shows like the $6 Million Man and the Batman TV show with Adam West and stuff like that. And then going through life, growing up, watching like the Superman movies and Batman, and then just all of it. And it just becomes like a dumping ground in my brain. And then I just start saying, well, I liked this about that element in
Hmm.
Batman or in Star Wars. I really liked how they did that. That was the thing that got me, is that connection with like Luke and his father and things like that. You know, there were certain highlights, and I wanted to pull that into what I do. Um, and so when I start writing a story, maybe it's just a nugget of an idea, like a boy goes into another world where there's intelligent animals that can talk, and they have a whole world going on that's separate from this boy's world. And how does he deal with that? And how would he react? Like he's in a world, he's lost, he wants to get back home, but then now he's also made friends and he
Hmm.
sees their dilemma and he wants to help them, but he also wants to get home. And it's like this pull back and forth. And then the characters themselves, then once you have the characters in that world, how do they feel? How does this little you know uh this little squirrel or raccoon or whatever it is, or a bear, how does this bear feel having to step into the role of leadership of all these other animals? They're looking to him now because their king is gone missing, and they have a quest. They have to go find their king, and he doesn't know, am I a king material?
Hmm.
So he's having to step up into that role. It kind of takes on a life of its own. It really does, and I've found that, like, especially with Titan, um, it was only going to be one volume
Hmm.
and going
Hmm.
to end it. And as I started with that volume, it was like, oh, I've got to do a second volume because it was taking too long. And I wanted to get it out to people because I did it on crowdfunding, like on Indiegogo.
Yeah, yeah.
People are waiting for this. I want to get this to them. So I have to wrap it up here with a volume one. And then like volume two, we'll wrap it up and I'll merge the two worlds of Titan, Mouse of Might, and Pakkins Land together. And it was going to be called Worlds Collide. And well, anyway, so I put that at the end of volume two and announced it and everything. But by the time I got to volume at the end of volume two, it was like, no, I've got so much more story now. So I did volume three. Volume three is out now, and I don't even know if volume four is enough to wrap it up. So
Oh,
I'm
wow.
working on volume four now. So it takes on a life of its own, and we'll see where it ends.
Love it, love it. What was that moment that you knew you wanted to kind of move from Packins Land to telling Titan's story?
I was on a drawing stream, like a live stream called Drawn and Quartered,
Hmm. Hmm.
where they have like some professional or, people who work in the industry. Um, and so I kind of didn't take it too seriously. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna mess around. I'm gonna do a mashup. I'll do like a Batman mouse mashup thing or something. And so I just did it as a joke, and all the people on the artists on the show was like, Gary, you've got to do that. And I said, well, I did have a mouse story called Mouse of Might. At the very beginning of if you open up the first page of um, Pakkins Land, there's a scene where there's a bookshelf and there's a hand reaching on the shelf, reaching for Paul's Adventure, which is Pakkins Land, Paul's Adventure. But next to it are other books, and one of them is Mouse of Might. And so
Hmm.
I had an idea, a nugget of an idea, and I thought, well, I'll just adapt it. I had no idea that it was going to be Titan, Mouse of Might, and go in that direction. But Titan has made Pakkins Land even richer, I think, because how it he comes from the world of Pakkins Land, but it's like the reverse. Uh,
Hmm.
Paul was a boy who went into the world of Pakkins Land from the human world. Titan is a intelligent animal who goes from the world of Pakkins Land into the human world, Paul's world, because of an explosion that opens up like a portal, and he's able to then go into the land of men. And then he can't comes with that a lot of baggage because there was this explosion, and he feels that it was his fault and that everybody else died, like
Hmm.
all of his kind, and he has this remorse and this trauma and that's like his kryptonite. It's like if he when he starts getting like a PTSD, it weakens him, and he can't think, and he can't fight, and he can't do anything, and then others can take advantage of him at that point, and he's basically in a weakened state until he can come out of it and start regaining his composure. So yeah.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. Well, curious where you would like to go next in your creative journey.
Well, because of Packens Land, there are so many characters. There's so many different animals that I can go and take another story in. The initial story, 30 years ago that I explained to my wife was called Banana Famine, and it
Mhm.
was about monkeys and apes and stuff, and a war that was going on between them. And because there was a famine, they didn't have enough bananas. And I know it sounds silly, and I told her, and she thought you're crazy. But then it ended up turning into Packins Land, and it wasn't about the apes and stuff. But I still have that story about the apes and this famine that happens with the bananas. So I'd like at some point to do Banana Famine. I think it's a funny name, and I have a story. It just needs to be flushed out and all that. That's one direction. Another thing would just be a total departure from that universe, the Packins Land world, and just do something totally new.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
Maybe more um, like a one-off kind of a thing, not something that will have this universe to it. But that's kind of how I've worked anyways. Everything has been just a one-off, and it's turned into a whole universe. And it's like I didn't mean for that to happen, but it's okay. It's worked out nice.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, by means of a final question, and we can hit anything that we might have missed as well. You have a wonderful web space that I've been to where you have, of all things, mugs and all sorts of things that align with the creative world that you've shared. Curious about what you would want to share with people as far as where they can go to see what you're creating, to support and kind of follow along.
Sure. Well, I do have a website, Gary Shipman Art. I have all my social media. It's pretty much the same. It's all Gary Shipman Art, like on Instagram and Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. And I've been doing a lot of drawing, live drawing on Whatnot.
Hmm.
where people will come in and they'll say a character, and I'll do like little drawings like on sketch cards and stuff like that. And that's what I've been doing a lot of. And there's like a whole community there. It's been fun. It's been fun to do that. But yeah,
Awesome, awesome. Well, have we missed anything in the talk through that you want to make sure to share before we close out?
I do have a YouTube channel, but it's really small. Um, and it's because I'm having to rebuild it back up again because just crazy things have happened. I don't know. I lost my original channel like twice,
Ah,
and I I don't understand how those things work. So I'm not super excited about the YouTube thing because I just build it up to have it taken down. I don't understand. But I do have a YouTube channel. I think it's called Gary Shipman Art too, or it might be called um, Make Your Own Comics or something like that.
gotcha, gotcha. All right. Well, thank you so much, Gary. Glad to have you back anytime to talk about creating and to talk about comics. And I appreciate the time and the creating that you're doing.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me.
Anytime, anytime.
All right.